Okay, so today in Avid Media Composer, we are going to start talking about doing multi-camera. Doing multicam work. A lot of my students who take class with me, even if it's beyond the scope of their work, they ask me, hey, is there a way that you can do multi-camera in Avid Media Composer? This is the idea of shooting with multiple cameras and then later editing it efficiently in multi-camera. And this is a wonderful process in Avid Media Composer. I like the way this works, and there's some advancements in the newer versions of Avid that will make this really, really easy. So in this scene right here, we have this footage here that was done from this field shoot that has 3 cameras here. There's a camera here, camera 1 here, with this 2-shot here of this guy talking and this woman listening. She's basically interviewing, but she doesn't say much in this clip here. I only have 3 minutes of this, so just for demo purposes here. And then camera 2 here, we can take a look at this. This is camera 2. This has this guy talking, and so we have a cut of this guy talking here.
There were a number of postmodernists, and
we have that there. And then on camera 3, we have her just kind of smiling and nodding and
being discussed quite a bit.
Looking really interested in what he's saying. So that's fantastic. But we want to cut this together. Now, the old school way of cutting this together would be to throw each of these down at the timeline and have them kind of lined up and then just take out the parts we wanted to kind of work it out manually. But we're going to do this in multi-camera mode. So let's talk about this as an idea. One of the ways that we can do this, and one of the first things we need to do, is to sync these clips up or to organize these clips so they start at the same time. And so we can do that through a number of ways. The hardest way to do that, I think, but the way we'll talk about first, is to do this based on endpoints. So we could go here and look at camera 1, and we could see that at the beginning of this, he says something
1918 to 1920, but who sort of got pulled in by denial to doing some great work on the Armenian genocide as well. And
so we'll go to the beginning of where he says and. So we're just going to back up for a second. J key, back up, and we're going to go forward and find out where he begins to say and right there.
On the Armenian genocide as well.
And we'll hit right there, and we'll just say right here, we'll mark an endpoint. And this is the beginning of where he says and. Cool. And if I go to camera 2, I can look at camera 2 and see where he says the beginning of where he says and.
In by denial to doing some great work on the Armenian genocide as well. And
back up. And back up to where he says and, etc. Cool, and just get right there.
And
you go to camera 3 here and say, listen to where he says and.
Sort of got pulled in by denial to doing some great work on the Armenian genocide as well.
And there we figure out where he says and.
And
now, in a perfect world, I might have a slate, I might have a clapper, I might have something that would give me a visual cue with an audio cue. You know, that clapper coming down and slapping down, or even hand slapping there, just to give me an actual cue there. I'm kind of lining up by words because I don't have a clapper in this. I don't have a flash from a photography camera or something like there. I don't have anything to really line me up perfectly. I don't have that really well. Well, the truth is, the secret is I don't actually have to do this because with this footage, I actually have time code. If you look at the source footage of this clip, so let's go here and let's look in the bin here, up here, and look in statistics view. So we'll go in statistics view. You'll see that the start time code of these, this one starts at 1:24:12:20. This one starts at 1:24:12:20. This one starts at 1:24:12:20. And so these cameras were done with kind of jam synced time code. So the time code starts the exact point. And so I don't really need to use endpoints, but I just wanted to show you that you could use endpoints if you didn't have time code. If you didn't have anything else, you could use endpoints and have them synced up there. Now, in order to do this, to have this synced up, well, let's take a look. I'm just curious. If we go back to camera 1 here, let's see. I put the endpoint here. We're just going to go to the endpoint here. The endpoint here was at 1:24:19:15. And here, the endpoint that I had, we'll just go to the endpoint that I had, Q key to go to the endpoint, was at 1:24:19:16. That was pretty close, actually. I did a relatively pretty good job. Let's take a look at this one. We'll go back to the endpoint here, Q key, go to the endpoint, 1:24:19:12. Okay, I was a couple frames off on that one. So we're going to forget going by endpoints. Endpoints are not going to be a friend to us. But we're going to go here, and we're going to grab these clips, and we're going to group these clips together based on time code. So we're going to go in here and say, grab these clips, and we're going to go here, and we can either right-click and choose Group Clips, over here, Group Clips, or we can go to the Clip menu and choose Group Clips. Let's grab them again here, and go Clips, Group Clips. Notice the shortcut, Command-Shift-G. Again, if I'm on a PC, that would be Control-Shift-G, but Command-Shift-G will work. And it will bring this up, and it will bring up a question and say, hey, how do you want to sync these clips to group these clips together? Well, we talked about the idea that we can sync them based on endpoint. That'd be a way to go. We could also sync them based on outpoint, which I've never done, but it's an option that we have there. Or we can sync them based on source time code. And since we have source timecode, we can choose to sync them based on source timecode and make sure the timecode is correct. So I'm going to say OK to this, and it's going to create a group clip. And a group clip says change cam 3 group, and it actually has an icon that looks like a little quad box here that looks like a little group, and it has a group there. So let's take a look at this clip, and let's appreciate this clip for what it is. Now, I'm looking at this clip here, and I'm only seeing camera 3 here. It's only showing me the 3 camera, which is her reaction, so I can't even tell if this is synced up properly. So let me talk about an idea really quickly. Right now, across the top bar, we have one row of data. We have numbers here and numbers here. We have one row of data across the top. But if you go to the composer settings and you go to File Settings, Command-Shift-Equal, and we go to the settings, there's a settings under the user settings called Composer Settings. And to the Composer Settings, show me what this composer screen is looking like and how this composer screen is working. I prefer to work in 2 rows of data, and particularly when doing multicam, I really like doing 2 rows of data. That will change me to 2 rows of data. You'll see 2 rows will pop up here, and you'll get 2 rows of data. But what you also get with 2 rows of data, now we have 2 rows of data up here, is you get this little button up top here. So this is the icon for the quad display, and then this little button is the multicam display button here that'll show us different views of the multicam. And if we go to this button and click on this up here, this little button, it looks like this button, but almost kind of broken out with a little, I don't know, that's a shadow behind it or something. This button here will show us what this looks like. And this shows us on video, we have change camera 3, change camera 2, and change camera 1. On audio 1, we have change camera 3, change camera 2, change camera 1. On audio 2, we have change camera 3, change camera 2, and change camera 1. And there's check boxes or checks next to 3 here. So all the camera 3s are checked. What we could do is we could listen to camera 3 and then switch to camera 2. And see camera 2. Now we're listening to 3, but also looking at 2. So let's see if his mouth moves in the same way on the same audio track.
Students, I'm sorry to say, and at one point there was a discussion of...
Looks pretty perfect to me. Looks pretty good to me. So we're going to go here, look at camera 1 as well.
Of acquaintance rate, which was a topic...
His mouth looks pretty good. It looks pretty good there. And we can switch there to see camera 2 and see what camera 2's audio looks like versus camera 3 or 1, and do the kind of comparisons there, or look at camera 1 while we're listening to camera 2. You can do all kinds of tests just to make sure.
Being discussed quite a bit. This is
we get different things of different circumstances there, and we're looking at this conversation there. And so here we have change camera 3, and we have change camera 2, and we can change camera 1, and we can test all these out here. But we want to really see this in multicam. We want to really do the multicam work, and so we're going to set this up here. But we at least know that here we can preview this to make sure that these are synced together, and we can get a sense, some sort of sense, that these are synced together. So we can take these and we can throw these down the timeline, and throwing these down the timeline, we can now go here and we can throw this down the timeline. So I'm going to take this conversation here. We don't need to take all this. This is 3 minutes. I'm not going to do all this edit here, but I'm going to throw this down to a sequence. We'll make a new sequence, Command-Shift-N. We'll make a new sequence here. We'll call this change sequence. And I'll throw this down here with a splice in. We'll just splice this in here, and now it says camera 3. Now, we are not currently looking at this in the cool multicam view. We're only looking at camera 3. What you will notice here is you could go here, and if you look down here, you can see that we're looking at camera 3 here on the video, and we're looking at camera 2 on the audios. And that's because when we brought this down, we were still on camera 2 and audio. Well, we could simply right-click and change this to whichever camera we wanted to. So we could have one on camera 3 and one on camera 2, or we could put them both on 3. And up here in the video, we could change between camera 2 and camera 1, and we could just swap back and forth. When you throw a group clip down into the timeline, it allows you the freedom to change between various clips, and so you can see it there. Now, if we want to do this the hard way, what we could do is we could go here, go about a couple seconds in, and just in the video, we could add an edit. We could go up here and add an edit with the Add Edit button, and we could add an edit here, and then say on the video, hold on one second, let me turn off my audio here for a second. Let's go here and let's add an edit, boom. We can add an edit here, keep the audio maintaining on camera 3, but then we could switch to a different camera, to camera 2 here. And then here, we could go add an edit here, and we could switch between another camera and go back to a different camera. And so we could switch back and forth there. But that's cumbersome. That takes a long time. So isn't there an easy way to do this? Well, of course there is. We want to go here into what's called Composer Multi-Camera Mode. And if you have a group clip on the timeline, you can go into Multi-Camera Mode. The shortcut there being Command-Shift-M. And Multi-Camera Mode will throw you into Multi-Camera Mode and show the screens like this. And now the screens look like this. Just save dummy. And so now the screens look like this, and I'm looking at camera 1 here. If I hold down the command key, again on a PC, the control key, holding the command key will tell me which cameras these are. And these were kind of done in reverse order when I grabbed these. So it put camera 3 on top, put camera 2 and camera 1. I don't really like the order here, but you know, it is what it is. But now I have camera 1, camera 2, camera 3, and they are laid out like there. Now the trick being here is that if I click on one of these cameras, I can switch between different cameras. And so right here it's on camera 2, right here it's on camera 1 now, click here it's on camera 3. And that's really cool. What's really cool though is now, if I go through this and I hit play, I can say let's open up on camera 2. And as this plays down here, I can switch to camera 2 and click there and switch to camera 2. And if I want to go back to the 2 shot, I can click back to camera 1.
Okay, there's something here, you know, that
and if I click up here, I can switch to camera 3, get a reaction shot, go back to him, go back to this. Now you're not seeing any cuts happening here. But when I pause, you'll see all the cuts that I just made. Look, there's all the cuts. One of the things that Avid does is it doesn't put the cuts on the timeline while this thing is playing. It's actually cutting this. It's actually memorizing the cuts, but it decides that adding these little, you know, black lines here to show you where the cuts are takes up too much RAM, takes up too much video RAM. And so for here, while it's playing, it just focuses on making sure that this plays back really well. It doesn't want to take all the energy to make sure that it plays back, to make the cuts in here, to show you the cuts in there. You just got to trust that it's doing the cuts in there like so. But now we've done this edit, and when we play this back, this will cut back and forth.
Great work on the Omni genocide as well. And developing that community gave me a sense, okay,
and because since this was synced, it worked out just fine, and it was switched back and forth. Now we're going to do this again as a different attempt here. We're going to go here to change sequence. We'll just delete this here. We'll delete the sequence here. We're going to start over. I'm going to start brand new. And I want to do something different. I want to delete this group clip as well. So I want to show you a different idea of doing this, a different way of approaching this. We're going to grab these 3 clips. Here, camera 1, 2, and 3 here. We'll grab them like this. And we're going to go here, and we're going to right-click, and we're going to say Group Clips. Again, Command-Shift-G. We'll do the shortcut, Command-Shift-G. Group Clips. Oops, let me grab them first. Command-Shift-G, and we're going to grab them here, and we're going to do this based on waveform analysis. Now, say for hypothetical, I didn't have timecode. These weren't synced. These cameras weren't synced in timecode. We had the benefit of having video cameras that took a timecode sync in, and you could sync one camera to the other, so they were all running the same timecode. But say, for example, we just didn't have that. We had, you know, we were shooting these on iPhones or something that you can't sync the timecode properly. We have something called waveform analysis. Now, waveform analysis is an idea where we're going to take the audio from these and just listen to them, almost like the same way that in the beginning I listened for the and tried to match them up based on the and. Well, the computer system can listen a lot more carefully, a lot more detailed than I can, and it can just analyze these and then line up the audio so that all the audio is saying things at the same time. So if there is audio and if the audio is saying the same thing at the same time, yeah, it's going to hit this and nail this and do this there. So it's going to take a little bit longer. You're going to see waveform analysis. It's going to say in here, preparing these footage, and it's going to say, after this, it's going to say analyzing. So it's preparing right now. Then it's going to say analyzing, and then it's going to make its own clip, and we'll see how this syncs. So it made this clip, it analyzed. Let's take a look at this clip. And again, we'll look here. Again, there's 2 rows of data. We'll look at camera 2, see how this synced.
So this is, you know, going back a ways, but it was a really...
Yeah, it looks good. So we're switching between different cameras. We're switching between different audio. It looks like it's holding on pretty well. Again, if we switch the audio to a different camera, you know, we can see a different camera and see how it sounds, etc., and make sure it's all synced there and have this. Yeah, this looks pretty good, and everything's working out pretty well, and we can sync it up like there, and that would work like a charm. And so if we have good audio, if we have decent audio, even if we don't put endpoints ourselves, or even if we don't do timecode, man, if we have decent audio, and again, the audio can't be muffled, it can't be like, you know, it has to be, you know, articulated, somebody speaking well enough that you can hear it, or there's some sound that you can hear well enough, and we'll see how it does as a job. Sometimes this will make a mistake, but ultimately, this worked out pretty well, and this worked out pretty smoothly and did a group clip. And again, we can go down here and we can say, we'll throw this whole clip down here. We'll just take this whole clip and we'll throw this down the timeline. Down here, we'll make a new timeline here. I didn't make a timeline first, but we'll just make a timeline here. We'll call this new sequence change. Whoops, let me just highlight it all and call this change. 2 H's. It's an acronym. And so this change video here, we have this. And again, we can go into MultiCam mode, Command-Shift-M, or go to Composer Multicam, and now we can see the screens there. And because the order these were in, I think 1 is in 1, and 2 is 2, and 3 is 3, which is really nicer, I think, for my own peace of mind. And so here, again, I can play through this, and as I play through this,
in 1920, but who sort of got pulled in by
I can
denial
switch
doing some great work on the Omni
randomly in there and switch back and forth.
And developing that community gave me a sense. Okay, there's something here, you know, that I can maybe contribute to. At the same time, my background is in philosophy, and it just on an intellectual level, I
can switch back and forth, and we'll make these edits right there. As soon as I'm done switching, it'll put in there. Now, one of the things you can do here is that now that you have these edits here, you can still go back and change your mind. You can still go back and say, hey, you know what, I didn't like this clip here. I didn't like this shot right there. I'm going to right-click on this and switch this to camera 2, and now it's going to be on camera 2 there, and it's going to switch to camera 2. You can also go back and grab these clips and trim. So you could go back to these clips and say, let's bring my trim control, and I could trim back and forth. Make sure you're just trimming the video. So if it accidentally have link toggle on and you're trimming the video and the audio, it's going to give you a harder time to trim because there's no more footage here. So make sure you're just trimming the video, and you could trim this earlier or later. So say, for example, you were a little late to your cut, or you didn't switch at the right time, or you wanted to get a little bit earlier, or make a clip shorter, or whatever it may be, you could still go back and trim these clips and swap these clips out for a better clip. Now, a weird thing happens here. Because there's only 3 clips here, we went from, when I changed this clip from camera 1 or whatever it was, or camera 3 I think it was, when I changed this clip from camera 3, I went from camera 2 to camera 3 to camera 1, which makes sense. But here, if I switch this to camera 2, now I'm going from camera 2 to camera 2. And so going from camera 2 to camera 2, there's no need for a cut to be here because it's just a kind of a match frame clip, and it's going from this clip to this clip, and it's all the same clip, and it's perfect. And so it makes a little equal sign there to show me that there's a match frame edit there, which basically means I put an edit there when there was no need for an edit there because it doesn't switch to anything else. You know, the cut point should be a cut point. And this would happen here if I added an edit. You'll see an edit that will add here. It'll add a little blue equal sign. That little blue equal sign says, do you really need an edit there? Are you doing anything different? Well, if you're not doing anything different, the edit is kind of irrelevant. Now, is it a problem? No, you could just leave the edit there. Maybe you just want to have a point there, a cut there for no reason, but that's just a cut. You know, you basically cut something apart and then taped it back together again, and it's irrelevant. If you're really bothered by these little equal signs, if you see them and you see, equal sign, I don't really want it, you can actually go to the timeline and you can right-click and choose Remove Match Frame Edits, and that will just turn this into one segment. It'll kind of re-heal these cuts, and then boom, they're not there anymore. So if you ever encounter that, I just want to show you that as an extra thing. That's there. Let's move on to another version of this. And so we're going to get rid of this. I'm going to make a new bin here. We'll call this new bin. We're going to call this new bin RB here. And so we're going to grab some new footage here. I'm going to go to Input Source Browser, File Input Source Browser, and I'm going to grab some footage here from Multicamera, and I'm going to go here into these Redbone MOV, and I'm going to grab all this footage in here, and I want to show you this as an idea. So we're going to link this in, and we're going to bring this in here. So inside here we have these clips here. We have Redbone 1, Redbone 2, and Redbone 3, and we'll just do this first. Just as a first idea, we're going to grab Redbone 1, 2, and 3. We'll click here. We'll sit this, and we're going to hit Redbone 1, and then we're going to Command click and hit Redbone 2 and Redbone 3 and grab these here. We'll make a new sequence, Command-Shift-N, new sequence. We're going to put this in the RB bin, and I'm going to grab Redbone 1, Command click, 2 and 3, and these 3 clips I can try to sync. Now, if I try to sync these clips, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to sync these clips, I'm going to group these clips, and I'm going to do this based on waveform analysis and see how this does in waveform analysis, see if the audio is good enough. On occasion, maybe the audio isn't good enough. Maybe there's some muted tones in this. But I have these clips. I'll just show you these clips really quick. And we'll take a look at this. So this is a black and white clip of these dancers dancing. There's some audio of this woman speaking poetry in the corner. And so we have these clips here. On Redbone 2, we have this clip here of this right here. Here, this woman is speaking there. So we have that going on a little bit there. And then in Redbone 3, we have this clip here. There. These are all linked in, so we'll have them, and they're dancing there like so, and this will do some ideas of waveform analysis inside of here. So let's take a look. Let's take these clips here, and we're going to grab these 3 clips, and we are going to say 1, 2, and 3. We're going to do group clips based on, well, we can do this either by waveform or we can do this based on source time code, because I know that this footage, coincidentally, I do know that this footage has accurate time code that is matched up. But let's see how it does in waveform analysis. I'm curious. We're going to process these clips. We're just going to prepare these 3 clips and listen through and see how this does, syncing these 3 clips based on analyzing. Let's see. Boom. It made a group clip here. Let's take a look at this group clip here. So we have this. Notice it's black right here, and that's because it defaulted to camera 1, Redbone 1 here. It defaulted to Redbone 1, and Redbone 1 ended up having some problems because of the way it's lined up. So it's playing this clip. Let me turn this audio up a little bit. So we can't really see her face as well. The only camera we see her face on is if we look at camera, if we listen to camera 1 or listen to camera 3 here. If we listen to camera 3 here, we can listen to camera 3 and we can look at camera 2, I think, which shows her face. So now we're listening to 3 and seeing the audio is synced up in her voice. Breaking the lock to dig dark. So it's there. But what we can do is we can look and see, okay, here on Redbone 1, we see their hands are like this. On Redbone 2, we see their hands are like this. We see, man, I feel like this is a pretty decent sync. I feel like this is a pretty good sync. The sync feels pretty comfortable, and I'm okay with this. So the waveform analysis did a relatively decent job. So it did a really nice job syncing these up, and we see each of these shots. They seem like they're synced pretty well, and each of them are showing the same thing. Again, this would be a group clip of doing that there. And we could take this again, throw this down to a timeline. You know, take this from here to here, maybe from here to here, to this whole sequence. We're going to bring this in. We're going to throw this in here. We're going to put this into MultiCam, Command-Shift-M, put this into MultiCam, and we're going to see this like here and show this as an idea. And so here we see that we can switch back and forth just by clicking on whichever screen we want to click on and switching between each camera. And it looks like the action is doing the same thing. Great. The multicam is working perfectly fine, and it's great there. We're going to delete these again, and I want to talk about a different problem here. A different problem here is, I did this as a different example here. And in this different example, we have Redbone 1, but we also have Redbone 1A, 1B, and 1C. And you'll notice that Redbone 1A is only about 30 seconds long. It goes from here to about here and then stops. And then Redbone 1B is going from here to here, and then it stops. And so it's not doing the entire thing. And this would be an example of, okay, camera 2 shot this entire dance routine, and camera 3 shot this entire dance routine. But camera 1 had a kind of a itchy trigger finger and would turn the camera off or pause and stop the camera, stop recording every so often, would begin recording and stop recording throughout the process. I worked with a guy one time who did this, who, you know, I said, hey, just film the whole thing, just never stop recording. It makes it much easier to sync later and do multicam. But no, he wanted to readjust the shot, and he kept pausing the camera. And I was like, what are you doing pausing the camera? That's not the way we do this. We want to keep this camera rolling the whole time. But he didn't listen, so now I have a problem. So these are difficult. But the good thing is that I have these with time code. And so here in statistic view, I have the time code. And if we were to look and see the time code, this starts, for example, at 216. So camera 1 here starts at 216, which is here. But if we advanced to here, 23012 here, we could go here to advance to 23012, and I'll show you a trick. I can just type in, I can click on this screen and then go to the number pad and type in, if you have a separate number pad, type in 23012, and jump to here, and we jump to there, and then I look at this shot here, Redbone 1A, and at the beginning of this shot, it's the same scene. So this one at the beginning is the same scene. So these ones are the same. And here, if I went to camera 2 here, again, if I went to 23012, there, this is the same thing as this. So these time codes are accurate. So I can just do this based on time code. This will make this relatively easy to do based on time code. So I'm going to grab Redbone 2 and Redbone 3, and I'm also going to grab Redbone 1A, 1B, and 1C. So we'll just grab them in this order, 1A, 1B, 1C, 2, and 3. We'll grab them top down. and we'll grab them here, and I'm going to say group clips. Now, here's a weird thing, and this is a question that you may come up with of how this is going to work, because it's looking at these as though red one, 1A, 1B, and 1C are 3 separate cameras because they were started and stopped, and it doesn't know that they're all part of the same camera. Even though I labeled them 1A, 1B, 1C, that was my naming convention. It doesn't know any better and doesn't know to work with them that way. So if I choose group clips, and I even do this based in timecode. We'll do this based in timecode because it's quicker. If I go here based in timecode and I group these clips, what's going to happen is when it groups these, it's going to look like this. It's going to show me 1A here. And here it shows me 1A, 1B, 1C, and then 2 and 3. And so it shows me 5 different cameras. Now 5 different cameras is a lot to work with. And maybe you want to work this way. So let's take a look. Inside of here, we're going to open up here. We're going to say, we'll start with this clip here. And this is going to show me camera 1, and then camera 1 only lasts this long. And so here, if I go to the end of this, I'll just go to camera 2 here. We'll look at camera 2, for example. So camera 2 ends here. And if I added this to a timeline, we'll just throw this down to a timeline. We'll add this to the RB sequence here. I'm going to name this sequence here. We can see that I'm on camera, on the audio, we're going to put myself on camera 2. Okay. On the video, we're going to put ourselves on camera 1 here, or 1A. Now, when I go to MultiCam mode, again, Composer MultiCam mode, Command-Shift-M, it shows me camera 1, and if I go a little bit further, it's going to show me here these other cameras here. But it's only showing me camera 1A, camera 1B, and camera 1C, well, and camera 2. Where's camera 3? Well, camera 3 is a 5th camera. By default, Avid shows me a quad screen. Unfortunately, and this is annoying to me, it doesn't show me more screens. It doesn't automatically default to more screens if I want more screens. Well, there's some ways around that. I'm going to go to Tools, I'm going to go to Command Palette, and a button I wish was on the timeline by default, in this case, is under the Multi-Camera section. There is Quad Split and 9 Split. Right now I'm going to do button-to-button reassignment, and I'm going to choose Quad Split, throw it down here, and I'll throw a 9 Split down here as well. So just so I have Quad Split and 9 Split on the timeline there. In this case, I'm doing quad split already. This is 1, 2, 3, 4 quad. I'm going to do 9 split and show me my 9 cameras. Now I have camera 1, camera 2, camera 1, camera 2, camera 3, and then 1A, 1B, 1C. I have these cameras laid out like there. Again, I'm holding down Command just to see the names of these, like so. So right now the green line shows me that I'm on camera 1. I could go here and play this. Maybe we'll open up on camera 1. Maybe we'll open up on camera 3. And I'm going to play this, and as I play this, you're going to see this is going to play 1, 1A, and 2 and 3, and I can switch to 1A, and then I can switch to camera 2, but after about 30 seconds, I'll bring this down a little bit, after a couple seconds, it's going to switch to the other cameras, because this one's going to go away, and I'm going to have to go to here. Now, maybe you want this to be known as a separate idea. I'm switching to cameras, but eventually, after 30 seconds, this one just blanked out. Now I'm going to wait a couple seconds because I don't know how long before, this person started their camera again. Switching. So now I have no other cameras. And now it's going to start the next clip right here, which is not, maybe it's a good idea. Maybe you like it that way. Maybe you like it separated. But I don't like the 9 split. I'm not a big fan of the 9 split. Here comes 1B. Oh, here it is. There it is. Okay, cool. It gets a little tricky to switch back and forth with this 9 split. So we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to try to approach this a little bit differently. We're going to go here, and I'm just going to delete this sequence, all this great work I did, and delete the group clip. Delete, hit the delete key, delete the one group, delete the sequence. Sorry, goodbye. We're going to do this over again. I'm going to grab 1A, Command 1B, 1C, 2 and 3. We're going to grab all 5 of these clips. And in this case, I'm going to choose a multigroup. And I'm going to do a multigroup. And again, it's going to bring up the same questions. A group based on endpoints, based on outpoints, based on source timecode, based on waveform analysis. I'm going to choose a multigroup. And by here, I'm going to say, let's multigroup this. And when I multigroup this, it's going to create this group clip with a little plus icon next to it. So it looks like a group clip, but there's a little plus icon. Well, what's the difference between a group clip and a multigroup? Well, the multigroup here shows us like this, and we have this here. The multigroup shows us these clips as Redbone 1A, 2, and 3. So now if I look here, I'm going to just bring this down the timeline. We'll bring the whole thing down the timeline. Again, make a new sequence here. It's going to show me that right here, if I switch to camera 2 here, and I switch to camera 3 here, or camera 2, let's do camera 3 on the audio, and camera 3 on the audio, and here. What I have here is when I do Command-Shift-M, this only shows me 3 cameras. It doesn't show me 5. It only shows me 3 cameras here. And these 3 cameras are, we'll go back to quad split here, just so it's a little easier. These 3 cameras will be inside of here. This will be 1A, 2, and 3. So these are the cameras it's showing me. This is how this is laid out, etc. So this is the clip here. This is 1A. Now 1A will eventually go away. If I look at 1A, and this is nice because it shows me the clips that are linked. This is 1A. From here to here is 1A. Blank, 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 blank. From here to here is 1B. And from here to here is 1C. So it's showing this in the quad split. And this laid this out as a multi-group. And so all of these 3 clips, since they're timecode accurate, are synced based on timecode. And it just said, hey, these are all part of the same footage. It's all just in a different part of this thing. Let me just reduce this. Instead of giving me 5 different cameras, we're going to give me 3 cameras like there was originally. So it kind of laid this out with these cameras accurately put. And I like that it does it in this purple lavender color, and that's because that since these are linked clips, and since I did these as linked clips, these linked clips will come in as purple. That's in the timeline fast menu, in the corner here, clip color, linked clips are purple, and so since it did that, it told me that here there's video, here there's nothing, here there's blank space, so it just put blue there, or cyan, or whatever color that is. And so these are a multi-group. So a multi-group is sometimes a nice way to work. Now, could we have done a multi-group with waveform analysis? Maybe. Maybe let's try. Let's try as another idea to do this here with multi-group as waveform analysis just to see. One more try. We're going to go here. We're going to keep doing this a couple times. Again, we'll delete the sequence. We'll delete everything else. Delete the group. I'm going to grab 1A, 1B, 1C, and 2 and 3 and grab all these. And we're going to do multi-group with waveform analysis. We're going to say OK. It's going to analyze. It's going to prepare first. Has to prepare. Then after it prepares, it's going to analyze. Let's see how it does. It might take some time. Let's take a look. It did this multi-group. We can see, well, good news, it made 3 cameras, which is nice. Cool. Looks like it's good. Let's throw this down the timeline. Let's take a look how this looks. Again, make a new sequence here. Yeah, it looks like it did a pretty good job with the multi-group. So here it's 1A, 1B, and 1C. Again, if we go to camera 3 for the audio, we'll put the audio. We'll, again, pick whichever audio is best. We'll have the audio there, and we'll have it there. Again, Command-Shift-M. Yeah, it looked like it did a relatively good job with the waveform analysis. Sometimes the waveform analysis is really, really good. Sometimes it works out really, really well. All right, we're going to do this a couple more times, and we're going to do this with something else here. So I'm going to hop out of this project for a second. I'm going to get out of this project. So File, Close Project, Command-Shift-W. And we're going to go back to the Welcome screen here, the Select a Project window. And I want to look at some other footage that I have available here. And what I want to do here is go to New Project, and I'm going to set a project that is 1080p 29.97. The reason I'm doing this is just because I'm just being super official here, and in doing so, I probably could have done this in the 24 frame per second project, but I just want to do multi 2997, just so I have a project that's conforming to 2997, because this new footage I'm working with is 2997. I'm always, especially with multicam, I'm always worried that it's not gonna line up right, and it will line up right, but I'm just neurotic, and so I'm gonna say, hey, let's just make sure. I'm gonna go here and do this 2997 because I'm bringing in audio, and I want to show this other thing that I have here. So we're gonna make this new project. We'll have this new bin here, and I'm gonna go to File, Input Source Browser. We'll right-click Input Source Browser. I'm gonna go to here to my multicam footage here, and choose multicam, and I want to go to this Roche proxy here. And so here I have all this footage here. And so to bring all this footage in here, I'm going to link this all in. I'm going to say link all this footage in here. When I link all this footage in here, it asks me a question. It says the file board audio.wave. There was a board recording of the audio from the soundboard for this set of footage. And so the audio has a start time, but it doesn't know what kind of time code format it is in. Well, I know that all this footage is in 29.97 non-drop frame, and so I'm going to choose 29.97 non-drop frame. And so we're going to say, yeah, okay, or okay to all, but all this is there. Because the audio came in with timecode, but it said, hey, I don't know how this timecode is laid out, it asked me this question of all this footage here. So let me take a look at what I have here. I have this clip here of this footage here. We'll bring the audio up a little bit. So she's there and she's listening to this conversation. Now these are cameras that were in the studio, and the microphone on these cameras are kind of questionable. They are not fantastic. They're not great. This was not even like a shotgun mounted to the studio camera mic. This was the on camera, you know, the little microphone that's on the camera, physically on the camera. It's not a great microphone, and it's distant, and it's not great. We can look at camera 2 here and see camera 2. Again, distant audio. You know, not great sound. Here on camera 3, we have another interview here. This is another angle. So this was a studio recording. This was there. We also have a board audio. Again, we have a board audio, which is just a wave file, just an audio wave file of a board audio.
That I really revisited it and rediscovered it.
Well, this is really nice. This is really clean, and this works out really well. And then simultaneously, again, we have somebody, myself, who was in the control room. And I thought it'd be cool to get kind of the control room, to film in the control room. I had an extra camera in the control room.
As well, 2 previous chapbooks. The second one in a...
There it is there. Like so. And so this camera was starting and stopping. So this is clip 1, clip 2, clip 3, clip 4, clip 5. And this camera here was the same scene in here, starting and stopping in the room. And the audio is kind of, reverberant. It has some noise to it. It's not really great. It's in the control room, which is not a really nice environment for the sound here. And it wasn't a great microphone on the camera to begin with. So again, we have some problems there, but we're going to try to sync this up, and I want to show you some of the ideas of syncing this up. One of the things I want to show you here is if we take camera 1 through 5, I want to show you a really quick idea. So this camera, this clip 1 through 5 here, this was start and stop. And because this was start and stop, one of the things I can do, since I do have timecode, and these are timecode accurate, I did have timecode on this camera. This camera alone was recording timecode. And even though I was starting and stopping, I still have free run timecode. This is the time code is setting by time of day, basically, and so it's free run time code. There is an option. I just want to show you this as a trick. If you grab these 5 cameras, you can choose an idea called auto sequence. Again, that's in the clip menu, auto sequence. Auto sequence says, hey, you obviously had this camera and it was starting and stopping. Let's turn this into a sequence that is following the accurate time here. So it looks at the time code on the camera and says, hey, let's auto sequence this, and say we auto sequence, and it creates this. It creates a sequence automatically that shows me, okay, I ran this camera for a couple seconds, and then I paused, and then I shot again for a couple seconds, and then I paused, and then I shot again for a couple seconds, and I changed my location and I paused. And so I'm changing my location, I'm moved around, went to there, and so I shot a bunch of different shots. I just wanted to show you that, that's basically what I did in the control room. When I was shooting here, I was shooting from this angle, I paused, I moved to 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 this angle. And so this is how the camera works, and this is what this camera was doing. I just want you to appreciate that as an idea. You're going to see how this is laid out. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. These are laid out accordingly like this. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to go in here and we're going to try to sync these cameras together based on waveform analysis. Now, this might take some time. So I'm going to grab all these clips. We're going to grab them all in, we'll grab them in order here. And we'll grab all these clips here and we're going to say right-click, multi-group. Because I want 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5 to lay out perfectly like there, we're going to multi-group these clips. And I'm going to try multi-grouping. Whoops, sorry. Grab these here, like so, and we're going to choose multi-group. And we're going to multi-group based on waveform analysis. So we're going to multi-group based on waveform analysis, and I'm going to say group these clips on waveform analysis there. And now we're going to sit and wait because this is going to take us some time. So we can stay here, talk about our lives, talk about our feelings, whatever we want to do. This is going to prepare for a long time. There's a bunch of clips. So there's 3 cameras that are running for about 5 minutes, 6 minutes, and then there's 5 different shots that are each running about a minute to 58 seconds, 42 seconds, etc. And then there's the audio. So this is going to take some time. It's going to do some work to analyze. Unfortunately, I wish this would tell me what this was doing, but it's just analyzing. You're just going to be patient, maybe go get a cup of coffee or talk about ideas. But now it's just listening to these clips and trying to sync these clips up. But I know for a fact with this example, the Waveform Sync doesn't do a perfect job. So I do want to talk about some of the issues with when the audio sync doesn't do a great job and some of the things you can do to fix it. So let's take a look. So right now we have this here, and we're on this camera here, and if we look at the pull down here, the pull down shows us that we have camera 1, camera 2, and camera 3. Great. Now, all the shots should be on one track. They should. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 should be on one track. But I notice up here that 1 and 5 are not on the same track, which is a problem. And that seems weird. It seems weird that they're on different tracks. That shouldn't be that way because these were all part of the same camera, and they should have just laid out like they did with auto sequence. Now, the truth is, if we had done this with timecode, which we did have timecode, this would have been fine. But I want to show you what happens when this doesn't work. So we're going to go here, and we're going to go to this thing here, and we're going to go to clip, the group clip, the multi-group, and we're going to choose edit group. And edit group will show me what's happening inside of the clip and how the clip is working inside the clip. So it takes these clips, when it does the multi-group, it kind of nests these into a clip called a group clip or a multi-group. And then what we can do is we can edit the group. Now this function edit group, God bless it, it used to not be here. In earlier versions of Avid, you used to have to just keep trying and trying and trying until you got what you wanted and say, cool, edit group, and then there, or just do it yourself, basically. But now it's here. So let's take a look at how this looks. Okay, so the way this looks here is it looks that camera 1, camera 2, and camera 3, and 4, and these seem like they're lined up. So camera 3 here, over here, is playing back. Let's take a look at this group here. We're going to go here to this group and say, okay, we have this right here. So in here, we're going to just close this out here for a second. I just want to show you this here. So right now we're looking at camera 3. In camera 3, we're going to listen to the audio. We're going to listen to the audio of the board recording. So we're going to listen to the board audio here and just solo this and see how this lines up here. We're going to look at Patrick here and see if his mouth is moving the same way that this board audio is playing back. So if this audio is playing back here and it's working here fine, this should play back.
And couldn't run anymore, and I lost that.
That looks great. That seems great. That seems fantastic. Camera 2, we'll switch to camera 2 and look at camera 2 and see how camera 2 looks. And camera 2,
That really important source of
his mouth is moving equally there. Camera 1, we got to get to a clip of her talking here. In the beginning, she talks. We're going to look at her talking here. Camera 1, her mouth with the board audio. So make sure the board audio is lined up perfectly fine.
Show today, Patrick Roche, who is the author of...
Seems good. Let's look at camera 1 here, or video clip 1. Clip 1 here. Clip 1, we'll look at clip 1 and see. We'll try to look in here and see if we can see her mouth moving the same way that the audio here is moving.
I'm thrilled to have on our show today, Patrick Roche.
It looks pretty small, but it looks like it lines up pretty well, so I'm pretty happy with it. We'll look at this clip here, clip 2.
And then I injured my knees and couldn't run anymore, and I lost
Sounds pretty good, looks pretty good. We'll go to clip 3 here.
things,
wow.
and then you need to, I'm going to sign you up for these, and we're going to go to them, and
Yeah, sounds pretty good. Now, let's look over here at clip number 4. Clip number 4,
necessarily
you'll notice right here that clip number 4 and clip number 5 are on top of each other. And if you remember the audio sequence from before, clip 4 was at one place and clip 5 was further down the timeline. I don't like the way this looks. Something seems wrong here.
coming from a performance background, maybe in theater as some spoken word artist.
We'll look here.
In my mind, I still default to performer first.
And then, but 5, if I switch to 5, it's on a different track here. 5.
Spoken word artist.
So you have no
Sorry,
theater
no.
background? No.
This is not right. This clip is definitely not right. So let's move this clip. Let's decide that we're going to move this clip. Because I remember this clip wasn't up here on top of 4. It should be over here somewhere. So we're going to go here, and we're going to grab this clip. And we'll make sure to grab this. We'll make sure to grab the audio as well. If you want to turn the link toggle back on, you can grab the video and audio simultaneously. And we're going to take this clip, and we're going to turn this clip kind of over here and maybe down like this. Because it was roughly around here. I remember it was like clip, and then there was a little space, and there was another clip here, and these clips were lined up this way. So let's go back here and look at video 1, and let's see if this is lined up. Maybe I hit it perfectly. Let's see. Let's see if his mouth moves here.
Just on a stage, but on a page as well.
No, I'm in the wrong place. So now I can move a little bit and adjust.
Same work, maybe in those two different
Maybe adjust a little bit more, bigger space.
worlds, which are not necessarily that different.
Again, what I could do here is, as a trick, now let's try this as a trick. I'm going to listen to the board audio here, but I'm also going to listen to the audio from camera 5. And we're going to hear, one of the nice things we can do is we can hear the difference between this. So if we look at the waveform for this and the waveform for this, I can hear how different the waveforms are. I'll kind of hide this. Just we're going to listen to see how off this is.
Really
same
present
work
not
maybe
just
in those
on a
two
stage,
different
but on a page as
worlds,
well.
which
The
are not
same
necessarily
work
that
maybe
different,
in those two different
or playing around
worlds,
with some
which are not
pieces.
So he's saying worlds here earlier. He said worlds. We're going to move this further down. See if this is better.
Those two different
not necessarily that
worlds,
different,
which are not
or
necessarily that
playing
different.
around with
No, it's too far here. Let's go back a little bit.
Playing around with some
pieces
pieces that
maybe
He says maybe here. We're going to go back a little bit.
explore structure and form in a way that I hadn't in my.
He's saying so we're listening to the distorted one earlier, right?
Those
maybe
two
in those
different
two different
worlds, which are not necessarily that different, or playing around with some,
Here the or
or playing.
the or is there. We could go here and we could use the period and the comma keys to nudge this super duper close. So we could kind of look at this and say, hey, let's nudge this with the period and comma keys. I always think of them as the greater than, less than symbol keys because they look more like nudging. And so we're going to here and we're going to nudge this forward, period, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames.
Playing around with some pieces that.
1, 2, wait, sorry, a little bit more maybe.
Playing around with some pieces that maybe explore structure and form in a way that I.
Notice that the audio sounds synchronous now. The audio is a nice way to test. The audio sounds synchronous because I have this board audio here, and this is in the right place.
Which are not necessarily that different, or playing around with some pieces that.
So this sounds pretty synchronous here, there.
Or
I could actually do this with these other clips just to make sure they're synced up nicely. If any of these other clips were wrong, I could go here and play them back.
a school play in 3rd grade.
See the audio there, both audios are synced up pretty well, and so they're nice there. So I can move these clips around. I can go inside the group and I can edit the group and fix the group. And this, like this layout here, the way this is laid out, this is the way that, we used to do multi-camera work. We used to have to lay the clips out accordingly and have them there and do it like there. But now we can just have this group and we can have this group and we can just switch back and forth and not have to lay them out in the timeline like so. So now everything seems synced. Now the weird thing is, and I think this is a weird issue with Avid Media Composer, and one of the things I don't necessarily love about this is there's no real button to say, hey, I've moved clips around here, all this is set up here, and I want to have this confirmed. I want to edit the group and I want to resave the group. I can hit save, but it doesn't really do much for me here. But it doesn't really save this new change. And the weird thing is, and this is weird, that now that I've made this change, I've opened up this group, it puts the group in the timeline. I want to say, hey, take this group and have this be confirmed. And the way that Avid does this is up here in the corner of this, in this sequence, it basically looks at a group clip like a sequence. And it says up in here in this sequence, I'm going to take this sequence and say, clear monitor. And clear monitor just says, hey, go away sequence, see you later sequence, goodbye sequence. It's going to clear this monitor and get rid of this out of the timeline, out of here. But what it does is, since I've edited this group, it prompts me and says, hey, you've changed this group. Would you like to update this group? Or would you like to even create a new group with all the changes you made? Well, there's 4 options: update, new group, don't save this, or cancel. And in this case, we're going to say update. And I'm going to update this group, and now this group is accurate. Now, the truth is that with timecode, I wouldn't have had to do this if the timecode was accurate. So if the audio was timecode was accurate, this would have been perfectly fine. We're going to throw this down the timeline. We'll switch this out to camera 2 maybe, and so now this is camera 2. We'll put the audio on the board audio, because we're listening to board audio, and now I have the ability to switch back and forth between this here. So a couple other options there. I know some people have been asking or thinking while they're watching this, isn't there a way to do this with the keyboard? Yes, there's absolutely a way to do this with keyboard. So we're going to go to keyboard settings, Command Shift equal, or go to settings, file settings, Command Shift equal here, and we'll go to settings, and we're going to go to user settings and go to keyboard. Now, on the keyboard settings, you'll notice that up in the corner, F9, F10, F11, and F12 are the function keys. They are Multicam 1, Multicam 2, Multicam 3, and Multicam 4. That would allow me the ability to switch back and forth in Multicam mode. So if I hit Command-Shift-M, or again, go to Composer, Multicam mode, I can use F9, 10, 11, 12. So rather than clicking here to switch between cameras,
Acceptable breakdown. As well.
I can use the function keys, and this would switch me back and forth. Things to be careful of. I am on a Mac system, and I know that my Mac system really is difficult with the F keys. The function keys up top, it really is a pain in the butt. So I'm going to go to my system preferences, And under System Preferences, there is a control under System Preferences under the keyboard. Under the keyboard, there's the option here. Use F1, F2, etc. keys as standard function keys. Right now, my F9, 10, 11 controls volume, controls muting, does those keys. So F9 through 12 is all about different things the Mac does. I don't want the Mac to do these functions with these keys. So what I want to do is I want to use F1, F2, etc., these function keys as standard function keys. That means that the software takes over. And this is mostly good, except for a problem. We're going to go here, and I'm going to play this back. We'll open up on camera 3 here, or open up on camera 1 maybe. We'll open up on camera 1 here. And on camera 1 here, we'll be here. I'm going to use my F keys, my function keys, to play this back.
Hi, and welcome to the Dr. Carl Calendar Visiting Writer Series
F9.
show. My name is Suzanne Parker,
F10.
and I direct our creative writing program, as well as
F11.
our Visiting Writer Series here at Brookdale. I'm thrilled to have on our show today.
Here's a problem. F11, even when it's a standard function key, for some reason on a Mac, it's minimized my screen and it reduces my screen back to normal. So that's a problem. My F9, F10, 11, F11, 12 keys, the function keys are just jerks, especially on a Mac. They're just jerks. I'm less familiar how they are on PC, but on a Mac, the function keys, they're really difficult here. So let's do this again. Let's go to Command-Shift-Equal. Let's go to my keyboard settings, and in here my keyboard settings, I'm going to change my 1, 2, 3, and 4 keys. Now, by default, my 1, 2, 3, and 4 keys, they are jump frame forward and jump frame backward. Step forward 1 frame, step forward backward 1 frame. I have them right here. I have step forward and backward 1 frame, and if I hold down Shift, I can do Shift and step back more frames there, forward or backward. So I have those functions to step forward, back, there. I don't really need these keys. They're not really huge for me. They're not really a big deal. So let's go to the command palette, Tools, Command 3. Tools, Command 3, Command Palette, and let's go to Multicam, and let's remap 1 to 1, Multicam 1 to 1, Multicam 2 to 2, Multicam 3 to 3, and Multicam 4 to 4. And now they're mapped to 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that's just nicer for me. So here, I can just go here, play this back. We'll close the keyboard. Play this back and switch between
our Visiting Writer Series here at Brookdale.
Camera 2.
I'm thrilled to have
3,
on our show today Patrick Roche,
Take 4.
who is the author of the wonderful collection,
Take 2.
A Socially Acceptable Breakdown.
Take 1.
As well, 2 previous.
So it's playing back the
chapbooks.
audio of the
second
board
one, an
audio,
award-winning one.
but I'm switching the cameras.
Patrick had an off-Broadway show that debuted in 2022.
And I can
also
switch
called
back
A
and
Socially
forth.
Acceptable Breakdown.
I can
And
even
it was
switch back and
featured
forth
in the Dixon
obnoxiously.
Places Hot Festival.
That's
He
crazy.
has over 9.5 million views.
Now I made all those edits, which is crazy talk. I don't want to do all those edits. I could probably just trim those out. But again, I can make all those edits and do all those edits as I need to. I can use this like a regular switcher, like I'm in the studio, much like her right there, using a switcher and switch this after the fact. So I don't need to switch this live like she's doing. I can just record all these cameras separately and then decide later to do the perfect job TDing this and switch as I need to. Let me undo that. That was a mess. We're going to go here. We're going to play this
Creative
back.
Writing program, as well as our Visiting Writer Series here at Brookdale.
We're going to
I'm thrilled to
go to
have
this camera,
on our show today
and you just watch
Patrick
1, 2, 3, and
Roche,
4 here.
who is the author of the
Go
wonderful
to
collection,
Patrick,
A
smiling.
Socially Acceptable Breakdown.
Back to her and 2.
As well, 2 previous chapbooks. The second one, an award-winning one.
Back to the 2 shot.
Patrick had an off-Broadway show that debuted in 2022,
Patrick.
also called A
Maybe
Socially
we'll go to the
Acceptable
room.
Breakdown, and it was featured in the Dixon Places
Back to
Hot
this.
Festival. He has over 9.5 million views on YouTube, making him one of their most popular spoken word poets.
Anyway, so we have this. We can swap back and forth in there. We have this here. Again, we can still go back and trim this. I would turn this link toggle off so I can trim forward and backward. I could trim this as I need to. I could swap out these shots to choose a different shot if I wanted to. I have all this there. Once I'm done, once this is complete and once this is finished, if you wanted to, an option that you can do here is you can grab this sequence here and you can say in here, we'll call this sequence, we'll call this visiting writers here. And we have this visiting writers sequence. We can take visiting writers, we can right click on this, and there's an option here called commit multicam edits. And commit multicam edits, what it will do is says, hey, when you commit this, what you're going to do is you're going to get rid of all these group clips. So you won't be able to right click on these and swap these out. This will kind of almost replace this with the actual clips that are there, not the group clip version of these. So it says, hey, do we want to commit this? Do we want to kind of burn this in and say, hey, this is now permanent there? It actually makes a copy of the sequence, which is nicer, and we'll commit this multicam and do it there like so. All multicam groups were modified, and now we have a new group, and this new group is more like a traditional sequence. So now we can't go in here in this sequence, and we can't say, hey, let's go to the sequence and right-click and swap the clip out, because it just gives us the traditional stuff that when we right-click on a clip. And these aren't group clips anymore. These are just, and if you even look, we're in multicam mode here. It shows me this screen, this screen, this screen, this screen. There's nothing there to group. It's all the same thing, so it's all perfectly fine. It's there. If you want to do that, you can do that. You can still go back to the multi-group and see the group options and then redo the edit, whatever you want to do. But if that's the thing that some people like to do, they like to do that idea of kind of committing, hey, this is for real, this is for sure, this is the actual clips. So you have those options inside of there. One last thing I want to show you really quickly is the idea, and this took me a second. I'm going to get out of multicam mode. So if I'm not at multicam mode, I'm going to clear this monitor out, and we're just going to have this here. If I go here, I can go here and say, right here, on this clip of, say, Patrick right here, or this, let me go to this shot of Patrick right here. I can say match frame this. Now when I match frame this, it's going to match frame back to the group. Since this is a group clip in the timeline, when I match frame this, it's going to match back to the group. And so here, you notice it went to group 01 here. So it matched back to group 01. But I want to match back to the original source footage. Well, as a detail, Command 3, Command Palette, if you take in the other controls, if you take the match frame button and you put it on the source viewer, if you do have a group clip, do you know that you can also match frame from here back to the original? And so this is going to go from group here, and it's going to go to this, and it's going to match back to camera 3, which is where this is matching back to. So we can match back to the original camera. So we can go here and say, for example, we can go into the control room, find a shot of the control room here. Here's a shot of, let's see where this is. Control room. We can match from the control room, which will match the group, but then we can match back to this, which will be shot 01. And then we could theoretically find a bin and find clip 01. And so you have those options there. That's just a thing I learned much later in doing multicam work, that you could actually go back and find the original frame of the source clip, not the frame of the group, if you want to match frame in that capacity. And so that's a little bit about multicamming, and that's some things you can do about multicamming. There'll be some other things you can do and some other ways you can play with multicamming and some other ideas you can do. One other thing I should mention. If you didn't have timecode and you had audio and you try to match this up and you try to match this up based on endpoint, there is a technique. It's not done so much anymore, but there is a technique that if the audio isn't working and the waveform sync doesn't work, you could create your own group clip. You could create your own group clip, and what you would do is you basically lay down a timeline and say, Command-Shift-N, and you throw clip 1 in here and throw clip 1, and then you'd make other audio tracks and other video tracks, and then you'd create, throw 2 on there, and say, yeah, let's take clip 2 and line up clip 2 where it's supposed to be, somewhere, whatever it may be, and throw this clip down there, and then, let's move this back here and say line it up like there, and you could create your own group and then move this group however you needed to make this work, however you wanted it to be, and you say, hey, okay, so now what do I do? Now that I've done this, now that I have this here and I move these clips here and I have these all lined up and I have all this lined up, how do I make sure that these are all synced? And how make them synced well with a multi-group every time? Well, there is an option here to sync, to grab all these clips and sync based on multi-group, based on something called auxiliary timecode. And what is auxiliary timecode? Well, auxiliary timecode is you can actually type in your own timecode number. So say, for example, this wasn't timecode accurate. What you could do here is you could go to the columns up top of the bin, the columns. You go to the columns and say, choose columns, and one of the columns you have is auxiliary timecode 1. And if you lined up all these clips right and you had them all in the same place, you could say, okay, this one's at 10:17:24. I could go to the beginning of this clip and figure out what the beginning of this clip is, and then figure out what the beginning of the other clip is. You'd have to look at the source video. So you look at video 1's source and say, okay, this one's at 324, 36, 16, and so I can go to this clip and figure out where this is in relationship to that clip, and you can type in your own timecode numbers. And if you type in your own timecode numbers, you kind of sort of cheat by kind of programming in timecode of your own. It's a meticulous process. It's a kind of pain in the butt, but if all these clips were lined up in certain places, you know, you could take all these clips and say, hey, let's take a 1 here and just say, throw this on another video track and have this, you know, start here or something, and have all these clips lined up based on a new generated timecode that you built inside of Avid. And that's called an auxiliary timecode. It's doing the hard work, but it is doable. I wanted to just show that to you as an idea that you can do that as a technique. Lastly, one of the other things we did not talk about, but we can talk about in some future lesson, is some people will use this idea of grouping clips not for doing multicam, not for switching between multicams. Some people will do it because they have several takes of a shot. They have several, you know, reaction shots, or several times someone says, you know, how could you? And they did several different versions of it and several different takes of it. And they'll put into a group clip and then throw it into an edit sequence for some kind of a narrative edit. And then they can just switch between which one they want. So if they have some kind of reaction shot, they have 6 different reactions. They say, hey, just group them, and then we can just, you know, go back to the group clip there into the sequence and say, hey, let's just right click and choose which one we want. So that is a technique that people do. Say, oh, I don't like this reaction shot. So they'll have shot 1 through 7 of just different reaction shots, or different, you know, response sound bites, or different B-roll shots. And they say, yeah, we'll just use all these B-roll shots. We'll just group them, and then you can decide which one you want to use. Do you like this shot of the dog? Or do you like that shot of the dog? You know, you can just swap back and forth between different shots and give your editor some different opportunities to do that. So a lot of times assistant editors will do that as a technique. That's not something we talked about in this, because this is mainly focused on multicam, but I don't think it's that too far of a stretch for you to think about ways you could use group clips in other ways. Anyway, that's all we're going to cover for today. I hope you got something out of this. There was a lot. I understand there was a lot, but it's a lot of stuff, and, you know, it gets a little bit more complicated. Hopefully you watched the previous lessons and you understand some basics of how to work Avid, but multicam is a thing that people are asking about a lot, and grouping clips is also a thing that people are getting involved in for various reasons. Play with it, explore it, check it out. It's actually much better than it used to be. It used to be much more complicated, so if you see an old tutorial from 2012, man, just a mess. Just a mess of work to do. Really complex. Thankfully, they've upgraded some things and made this much more fluid in how it works. So have some fun, enjoy, and good luck editing all your stuff.